My name is Patrick, and I am a lecturer and researcher in the School of Science, and I specialise in cybersecurity. This presentation is going to be an accumulation of research that our students have actually done under my supervision. So this whole project started following a few students approaching me, having an interest in wireless security, and subsequently, based on what they learned in their course, they wanted to apply it into the real world, enabling them to prepare for future job prospects. And so I supervised the project. We did it over the course of a couple of years. We've published as a result of it, both in Adelaide and in Vegas in the US, and it's generated a lot of media publicity. So one thing that I also want to point out very early on is that there is definitely a cyber skills shortage. And as a result, one of the things that ECU is really good at doing is filling that gap. And the reason behind that is because we can take a real world problem and get students to work on it, learn, and prepare adequately for the real world. And this is exactly what this project enabled students to do. Now, in case you haven't been exposed to the media with regards to cybersecurity, Australians are quite susceptible to cybercrime. In fact, we are often considered one of the groups most likely to succumb to cybercrime. Now, this is something which is quite concerning to governments, to commercial entities, and to end users also. And these are some direct quotes from individuals in industry, in governments, who have identified Australians as being susceptible to cybercrime. And this is a simple example of why we need graduates to fill positions in cybersecurity to address these problems. And one of the great aspects of this is that students who graduate get jobs very, very quickly at the moment, because there is such a skills shortage for students being able, or graduates being able to fill the cybersecurity roles. So before I just kind of get started, who here has connected to a wireless network? Ever? I see some of you are putting your hand up straight away. Some of you are a little bit reluctant. That's perfectly fine. So my question to you is then, how did you know that the wireless network you're connecting to is actually safe? Now, you don't have to answer that, but just think to yourself in your head for a second, how did you know it was safe? What made it seem safe and secure? And beyond the confines of your house, where you might have a wireless network, have you ever connected to a public wireless network? In the city, at a cafe, at a fast food place, etc. And I see a lot of you kind of smiling now, nodding your heads, etc. So presumably all of you have done this at some point in time. It's a very common aspect that many people engage in. But again, think to yourself, how did you know it was safe and secure? And then secondly, did you engage in any confidential internet usage? And by that, I mean, did you check your email? Did you log onto Facebook? Did you do any banking? Did you shop online? Did you engage in any other types of transactions which could potentially enable someone to capture that data and, for instance, use it to commit identity fraud? Because this is an ongoing issue and it happens all the time. All you have to do is switch on the television, read the newspaper, go on the internet, and you're continually seeing another incident, another case of where someone has been victimized by internet fraud, where they've lost their identity and subsequently someone has taken out a loan in their name, registered a mobile phone in their name, purchased a vehicle in their name, registered a firearm in their name. So these are all real-world issues that do happen around the world all the time. And these problems need to be fixed and addressed. So mimicking this research project, which was initially commenced by students. These are a couple of examples of how significant this problem of you and I accessing a wireless network actually is. So in London, a couple of years ago, people were willing to connect to a wireless network in exchange for an absurd set of conditions and consequences. In fact, most people didn't read the terms and conditions, which means when they saw a free wireless network, they would connect to it and start engaging in confidential internet usage. And on the other side of the scale, you might think, well, you really need a lot of expertise to hack into, to compromise, to abuse a wireless network. Well, you don't. And there's plenty of videos online showing kids doing it. So this is one example. I'm not going to show the video, but if you were to search for it, you would see that kids in 10 to 15 minutes, by watching a freely available YouTube video, can compromise a wireless network. You don't need a university degree to be able to do that. You do need a university degree to counteract this issue and to safeguard consumers, businesses, and governments from the potential consequences. Now, a lot of employees, and again, it's a question that you may want to consider. Have you accessed confidential company resources through a wireless network? Student records, HR records, medical documents, the list continues. Would that data, or if that data ended up in the wrong hands, what would be the consequences for you, for your company, family, friends, etc.? Because these kind of security issues occur all the time. And so there's been research which has demonstrated that people in large corporations around the world do access public wireless networks. And they use those networks to access confidential company records. So this is a concerning factor. Because even though you might undertake best practice to safeguard your data, you don't know how other people around the world are using and accessing your data. So you might employ best practice, but someone else might be in an internet cafe accessing your insurance data right now because they need to fill out a report, and that data may get captured, compromised, and misused for a cyber criminal's own good. Now, there's also this human element whereby, a lot of people do access public wireless networks, and yet very few believe the networks are actually secure, but they still go on and do it. So as a result, we need people to be able to counteract this and to secure these networks and to develop solutions to protect people from engaging in these incidents. And this is kind of a comical perspective, but in a recent study, people value Wi-Fi over quality of food. This is where we as society have now come to, whereby Wi-Fi has become a basic human need. But this is it's a factor which has transpired across continents. If there's Wi-Fi, people will go there. Businesses in Australia have now noticed that if they offer Wi-Fi in cafes and restaurants, more people will go there. Diminish the quality of food, offer free Wi-Fi, and you'll get the customers. A very simple business model, but it works. And even then, if you as a consumer go to a restaurant or cafe and you think you're accessing a safe and secure restaurant's wireless network, is it actually safe and secure? Just because it's got the restaurant or cafe's name as the network name doesn't really mean it actually belongs to them. And this is exactly what I'm going to be talking about today. So this is a research question which students in my course proposed. And simply put, would end users connect to an unsecured, open wireless network when there are alternate trusted wireless networks in the vicinity? So to put this into context that you might be able to understand better, imagine if you're in the central business district of any city around the world. Typically, most cities now have free wireless access, which is a positive aspect. Now imagine also that in conjunction with that freely available wireless network, there are other networks that you see when you open up your phone, your tablet PC, your computer. Ideally, if you see these alternate networks, you shouldn't connect to them. But what our question was, well, would people actually connect? So what do? We created a fake wireless network. And this is all we did. We got a simple little USB antenna and a little microcomputer. Total cost about $50. You can pick this up at any retail outlet, computer shop or online. So essentially, $50 is what it takes a cyber criminal or a child or a teenager or a school kid to essentially capture wireless traffic. And it's very simple for that same individual to disconnect you from the network that you're currently connected to and make you connect to their wireless network, which I'll show you towards the end. So even now, if some of you have a phone or a tablet PC, are you connected to a secure, safe wireless network? Something to think about. So, in addition to making our network names seem unsecure, we also provided these very poorly developed warnings. We didn't want to make them look professional. We wanted them to look like some child created this, so that if our suspect perhaps connected to our wireless network, they would see and be prompted by these screens and straight away think, this doesn't look professional, this doesn't look safe, I'm going to disconnect. And hopefully by you looking at these screens, you would think, if I was connected to a wireless network on my phone or my computer and I saw these screens, I would probably disconnect. Because a lack of professionalism is typically a good factor that something should seem unsafe or lacking authenticity. And so we got all these little small wireless access points and we deployed them all around Perth. So right there in the hub in the middle, that's the Perth CBD. And we put these all around, or as much as we could, around the metro region. And we decided to see, well, one, would people connect? And what would they do if they actually connected? So did people connect? Well, yes, they did. We had 683 unique connections. Okay, that means unique devices. That's a substantial figure for a very small time frame. And you can see the names of some of these networks. Some of the network names do actually seem legitimate, trustworthy, and others don't look safe or secure whatsoever. And yet, people still decided to connect to them. You can see these two at the bottom here actually got quite a few. The NBN, the National Broadband Network that's being rolled out by the Australian government. I'm guessing that people assumed that this was something to do with the NBN, hence why they connected. So it also demonstrates how easy it is to trick someone into connecting to a wireless network. Make the name seem safe and secure and people will connect. Okay, so moving along. Different set of students now. So these are all students in the Master of Cybersecurity program. New set of students saw the previous data, saw the previous outcomes and thought, okay, let's take this up a notch. Let's see if people would connect to an absurd set of terms and conditions when connecting to the wireless network. So beyond just telling people you are not permitted to connect, let's actually create a set of conditions which just seem absolutely ridiculous. And then let's actually provide them with internet access and then see what people would do when connected to our wireless network. Where would they go? What would they do? What would they access? These are our terms and conditions, a small sample. If you read this stuff in red, you will see how ridiculous it actually is. If any one of you was to connect to this wireless network and see these terms and conditions, I really hope you would be, I am disconnecting straight away, because this is definitely a fake wireless network. Did it change people's behavior? No, it didn't. Why? Well, one, there's the element of curiosity. Why will these terms and conditions be there? Two, people don't actually read terms and conditions ever. I mean, just think, how many times have you connected to a wireless network and actually read the terms and conditions of you connecting to that network? I'm probably going to guess that not one person's ever done that. It's rational human behavior. Small little computing device, small screen, reading through a lengthy document, it's not going to result in an ideal outcome. So you can essentially put whatever you want in there and people are still going to disregard it and just accept it. They want to get on the free internet. So now we deployed the new wireless access points in areas which received the most amount of traffic previously in the first phase of the study. And so we deployed it, same hardware, same infrastructure. The only difference between the phase 2 and phase 1 is that we utilized a 4G USB dongle that can be purchased from any retail outlet because we actually allowed people to access the internet. We gave them data to access the internet and engage in whatever transactions they wanted to do. So these are our network names. So on the left-hand side is our network names. I hope that if you ever see one of these network names, you never connect. From my perspective, if I saw one of these network names, I would definitely not connect. And yet people do connect. Compromised academic network, 267 unique devices. You know, even things like very dodgy Wi-Fi. People still connect to it and access the internet. Now, just think for a second, before I get to the next slides, what would you suspect end users to do when connected to one of these networks? Or what you would hope they wouldn't do if connected to one of these networks? Banking. Well, this is the number of attempts to access specific services. Now, social media, Facebook, Twitter, Flickr, etc., over 18,000 connections. That's to be expected. Because, you know, our phones, for instance, have a lot of people use Facebook. You connect to a network, straight away Facebook wants to, you know, start accessing the service, you load it, etc. People on Facebook all the time. Not surprising there. But banking, even though the number's relatively small in comparison, it's concerning that you connect to a network name that clearly doesn't look safe and you proceed to engage in online banking. That's a concerning element. And then email, well, I guess I'm not surprised that people tried to and did access the email. The banking is the one that is most concerning. So to take it up a notch then, this group of students started thinking outside the block and started thinking, well, okay, we're capturing all this data about whether people connect to these network names and what they do online. What if we could take it up a notch again and find out where someone lives based on their device? And this is probably something you've never thought about. When you connect to a wireless network, depending on how it's set up, the information that your device hands over to the wireless access point can be used to pinpoint your exact house in which you live in, wherever you are in the world. How? Good question. So, your device uses what's called preferred network lists. So most of you right now on your phone, for instance, have a list of networks that you've previously connected to. And to give you an example, when you go home tonight, you might have a wireless network at home or in a hotel or wherever you're staying. Your device, because you've previously connected to it, it'll automatically reconnect to it. Saves you from having to engage in that manual process. So your device stores a list of networks that it wants to connect to. Now, essentially what happens is, if you're not in vicinity of those networks, your device continually screams out and says, for instance, hey, McDonald's Wi-Fi, are you around? Starbucks Wi-Fi, are you around? Airport Wi-Fi, are you around? And so on and so on. It goes through your list, a certain time period passes, and then your device screams out again, hey, McDonald's Wi-Fi, are you around? And so on and so on. This is kind of why if you leave Wi-Fi on your phone, it actually drains the battery a bit more, because it's continuously trying to scream out and communicate with a network. It wants to connect to a network. It's the way Wi-Fi actually works. So, our devices that my students decided to reconfigure worked on the premise that, well, let's capture all these network names that every single device has previously connected to. So if I had my fake wireless network here right now, and your Wi-Fi was on, your Wi-Fi is screaming out, asking for network names, my device could capture all that data if I had it set up here, and I don't. Now, let's say at the top of your list, you got the Starbucks Wi-Fi. Your device screams out, hey, is Starbucks around? My little device basically says, yeah, well, I'm over here. Connect to me. Even though I am not, or even though my network is not the legitimate, real network that your device has previously connected to. My device is pretending to be that network that you've connected to. Your device doesn't know any better, so it connects. It creates an element of trust. I've connected to you previously. You must be trustworthy. Excellent. So my device that I've now deployed is capturing information from your device. So how does this work? Well, let's say these are some examples of previous network names that we captured in this study. So you can see obviously ECU, because we had our wireless access point on campus. A lot of devices around campus were previously connected to the ECU network. So it's acceptable that a lot of devices would be continually screaming out, I want to connect to ECU. That's fair enough. You can see that some devices, Pan Pacific Perth, so obviously someone was in a hotel, and or a number of devices were in a hotel, and so they were screaming out, I want to connect to this network, and so forth. So you can see the number of devices which try to connect to these networks. That's fine. This is just data for the time being. So how can we use this data? Well, we can capture the name of your device. We can capture information of your serial number of your device, also called a MAC address. It's just a unique serial number. And I've purposely put asterisks there, not to reveal the user's name or the network name. But what we could essentially do is go, okay, well, this is the preferred network that, for instance, Hazel's iPad has previously tried connecting to. And that device, Hazel's iPad, had tried to connect 298 times to that preferred network. Excellent. So we get this network name. Again, it would be a name, wouldn't be asterisks. I've hidden a name. And then we use an online service that's freely available, open to anyone. You simply type in the network name on the right-hand side, and it pinpoints the location as to where that network is found in the world. So right now, for instance, you could go to this website. If you've got a wireless network at home, you could type in its name into this website, and it would pinpoint its location wherever you are in the world. So based on that then, we can correlate this to Google Maps and pinpoint the exact house where this network exists and where Hazel, presumably, is the person's name, and where Hazel's iPad typically resides. That's how easy it is Even though it seems a little bit technical, but essentially that's how easy it is to capture data, capture someone's identity, locate someone just on the data that your phone sends out. And I see a lot of you now on your mobile phones and perhaps maybe changing settings, disabling Wi-Fi, which is a good thing. So your device sends off a lot more information than you possibly realize. And these are just some of the elements that our students get involved in, either identifying the issues or creating issues to be solved. So there isn't one correct answer to using a public Wi-Fi network safely. But basically there are a couple of simple strategies. So the first one is a technical solution, which is the use of a virtual private network or VPN. This basically ensures that all the information between you and what you're accessing on the internet is encrypted and stops prying eyes from intercepting it. The other ones are quite simple. It's being aware of who owns the public Wi-Fi network that you're connecting to. So even though the Wi-Fi network looks like it belongs to the coffee shop where you're sitting at, it may not necessarily belong to them. So you can do simple things like actually ask the coffee shop owner, do they actually have a free Wi-Fi network? Do they own it? What's the password to it? And so forth. And the last simple solution is don't engage in confidential online transactions when using public Wi-Fi. So things like banking, email, and confidential transactions, do try to avoid them, because at the end of the day, someone could still potentially intercept that data. ECU has one of the longest standing cybersecurity programs in Australia. As a result, we've established links amongst many different organisations. These include government, law enforcement, the banking sector, and many private enterprises. So what makes our program very unique is that we provide students with authentic assessments and tasks, which prepares them for the challenges faced in the real world. And our industry partners or potential employers really like this about our graduates, because it minimises any potential training or further education that the students need upon the completion of their degree. Both the Bachelor of Science in Cybersecurity and the Master of Cybersecurity at ECU offer a one-semester work experience position for eligible students. Students undertaking these positions have the opportunity of undertaking authentic duties within the allocated company. Students gain hands-on work experience, are exposed to authentic cybersecurity working cultures, and have a valuable opportunity to liaise with and network with industry experts. This further prepares them for when they graduate. So from my experience, having spoken to both students and the employers, many students are offered employment opportunities within the allocated company upon completion of their work experience placement.